Alright everyone, welcome to Sports of the Day, and here we are with the second game in the season against the Green Bay Packers. Today I was sitting through what was roughly the most boring lecture of my life, and my brain hatched an awful idea. A terrible idea, and then a great idea. All three at the same time. And all three were, interestingly enough, the same idea. Basically, I very quickly wrote down 5 topics, and I'm going to talk about all of them. First of all, last weekend was the NBA AllStar Weekend, and I missed most of it, outside of the one that I always seem to be available to watch. And if you were guessing, it is indeed, I did name this the Hellron Bowl, because it was originally called the Tiburon Bowl, and I wrote Hell, and it just stuck with Hellron Bowl, and I was like, that sounds awful, let's stick with that. Anyway, we'll skip the overly long player introductions. LA did bring out a very nice crowd of people to watch the first home game of this new franchise. Anyway, I missed the entirety of the NBA All-Star Weekend almost, outside of the celebrity game, the last half of the dunk contest, which were two things that, you know, the celebrity game certainly is never high on my list, but I always tend to watch it because that's just how life works sometimes. And then the other thing, I just kind of, well, I did want to see the dunk contest. I was actually very interested in it for a number of reasons. The first of which was Zach LaVine, because, like, before he even stepped on a court this season, I was like, I hope this kid's in the dunk contest. Oh, that was a nice gain right there by Tiki Barber. I really hoped Wiggins would be in it, but no dice, unfortunately. LaVine is really good, though. Very good dunker, and then hopefully he's a good player, too, because you don't want to see, you know, another... God, how many have there been who have been excellent in the dunk contest and terrible everywhere else? Isaiah Ryder, Jason Richardson, Harold Miner. That was terrible. Put that on Kerry Collins right there for messing that one up. Just a lot of people. Like, I never saw Nate Robinson do very much other than the dunk contest. It's people complain about, like, how stars don't do it anymore, and I understand that. I understand where that complaint's coming from. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, because, I mean, if the dunks are nice, the dunks are nice. It is nice to see some recognizable names, and if you watch as much as I do, I did recognize a number of the names. I recognized all 4 of the people in the contest, so for what that's worth. It's not like, you know, Victor Oladipo was one of the highest draft picks last year. I mean, I knew LaVine basically through dunk vines, and then Giannis is Giannis, and then Mason. It was Mason Plumlee, right? He was on the national team this summer. I still can't quite comprehend what he did to make it onto the national team. I know he blocked LeBron at the end of a game last year, and I don't think that one performance got him onto the team. Okay, well, that was great. But I wouldn't be surprised. Always weird to see somebody as tall as that in the dunk contest, because nobody expects somebody who's that tall to be able to dunk at all. And I mean, he from what I saw, I only saw one of his dunks, because I mean, I got into it late. But he seemed to put up a decent performance. Rondane getting the handoff there, by the way. So now I'm on, like, 3rd and 20, so I just gotta figure out anything I can do here to corner threat. But yeah, that was really my main. I don't necessarily follow that school of thought anyway, that there should be mainly stars, and then also I don't think there was, like, a lack of decent names. If these guys were oh shit, you see that? It's like the second catch that guy's made like that in that sort of situation in these 2 games. What's his name? Hilliard? He'll be getting more playing time, says the coach. And I'm going to watch this sweet-ass replay. Just right as it goes, right into his hands. Yeah, nice. You get a surprising amount of catches like that in Madden 02. It's not like in a lot of the future Madden games you would see players drop balls all the time. Oh, Christ, Ron. Come on. You're on TV. Has there ever been, like, in recent history, like, when was the last NFL game that wasn't televised in some sort of capacity? Oh, good, I'm giving it to... Why did I keep giving it to Comella? It'll give me 2 yards. That's decent, I guess. So I guess I'm going to the air here. I'm going to ask Madden, because I don't trust myself. The three-point contest was supposed to be great, but I don't find the three-point contest all that interesting anyway. Because, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's guys shooting balls off of racks. And that's just, I mean, that just doesn't appeal to me, I guess. It's a cool event, and there's certainly a very talented field of players this year. The Rising Stars Challenge is the game I wish I had seen. I was out socializing instead of watching that, like the madman I am. I like the new format of it this year, and I don't doubt that it was slightly out of just not desperation, but desire not to have the rookie team take on the sophomore team, because the sophomore team is a little underwhelming this year. I had to guess who would be starting. The two best players from that field were probably both point guards, and Giannis Antetokounmpo and the guy in Philly, what's his name, Michael Carter-Williams. He had a Todd McFarlane thing. Like, I was at Hastings, which is like a bookstore that also sells little action figures. It's like the sort of thing where, you know, they make adult toys. Well, I mean, they've always made adult toys, but I mean like adult action figures now. Adult toys are a completely different thing. It's this sort of store that sells that kind of thing. And I saw a Michael Carter-Williams, like, next to like LaMarcus Aldridge and a bunch of big name guys. It was just an MCW, just hanging out there. And I did not buy it. Well, that team just wouldn't be good this year. Because who else? I mean, would Ben McLemore be starting? Would Anthony Bennett be even in the game? I mean, he was the first round. He was the first pick. I'd be surprised if he even appeared. Would Mason Plumlee be starting? Probably, actually. So having it USA versus World was nice. Also, we get to point out that Andrew Wiggins is from Canada, because he was just balling against the U.S. team, and I think that's a really good way to kind of examine just how far, like, this is kind of a David Stern way to think about it, but how far has the NBA come from its older days? Because if you did that even 5 years ago, I don't think you have that many players from around the world. Yeah, certainly not 15, 20 years ago. In 1995, I just don't see that happening whatsoever. Who'd you put on that team? I mean, you'd have, for the most part, in 1995, you had, like, Rick Smits, Vlade Divac, I mean, not that many. You had a young Steve Nash. No, he was still in college, actually, at that point. So, shit. I'm sure there are other people that I'm forgetting, you know, like, and either there would be the issues with, like, do you kind of deadlift Shrem for a Hakeem Olajuwon who played college, you know, in the United States? Would you count next year? Would you count Joel Embiid, assuming he plays next year? Speaking of which, my cousin met Joel Embiid, but that's not interesting to talk about. Granted, I mean, I don't know how many people care about my opinions on the NBA's AllStar Weekend, but let me tell you, the celebrity game each year is unintentional comedy that I tend to just somehow get a part of. The NBA Celebrity All-Star Game was the only way I knew about Kevin Hart for about 3 years. When he first appeared, it was like 2010, I think, or 2009 was one of his first years at the Celebrity All-Star Game, and I'm like, I don't know who he is, but he sure is in the Celebrity All-Star Game, playing against, like, Justin Bieber, and, like, the kid from the Hunger Games was there that one year. You have, like, actual professional basketball players and former players, like Allen Houston was there this year, Chris Mullin, I think, was there. But, like, Skylar Diggins was also there, who's an actual professional, which I find really funny, just to, like, oh yeah, we actually have a real basketball player here, presumably so they could have some points on the board. Oh, come on, alright. There was a thing that happened this year. I forget who it was. Player on the Minnesota Lynx she played in a game in the early afternoon and then went to the celebrity like MLB AllStar game and hit a home run. So it was just like, in the distant future, it was Maya Moore. In the distant future, we're all gonna talk about the time that she scored 40 in a game and then hit a home run later in the game in some bizarre league where you played 2 sports in one day. I'm gonna steal somebody's other joke there for a second. Also, Tiki having a decent day. Tiki Barber, I will talk about him once I know more about him. I watched the NFL Network documentary on him that one time, A Football Life, and it just seems like he had a weird career. Because my entire recollection of him was that he wasn't that good, and then as I come to find out, he actually was that good. But my personal recollection of a lot of players is a lot different. Oh shit. Anybody see that coming? Alright, well, okay. That's fine. No, they definitely hit the ground. Hit the ground. Granted, if they show... Can I... Yeah, I can. Challenge the catch. Generally, if they show a replay, it means that they're pretty... like, the game didn't mess up there and that actually was a catch. Ooh. We got a Des Bryant, Bert Emanuel situation going on here. Yeah, the one with his back... Oh, yeah, that was definitely on the ground. I like how Madden just codes that in. Like, yeah, okay, we'll have him mess up. The refs will get it wrong, just to see if the player was paying attention. And... I'll listen to him say it. They don't look too happy. The defense appears to still be out on the field. Nope, okay. I was wrong. It was not overturned. Now I have lost a timeout. And it is a sad day in Los Angeles as we get prepared to face Brett Favre in 2002. Brett Favre was some hot shit in 2002, if I remember correctly. But really, when was Brett Favre not some hot shit? Probably, and not even like his rookie year with the Falcons. It is interesting to think that a guy so well known, first of all, for being a Packer, started his career with the Falcons, and then he played for 4 teams in his whole career. Those last 3 years, I don't know if would he want those back or not. 2008, 2009, 2010. Because, well, first of all, I don't think Brett Favre actually cares. It's one of the things that I think about Brett Favre. I really just need to tackle him. I just can't. I'm physically unable to do so. But my first answer to my own question of do you think he wants those back is I don't think Brett Favre actually thinks about it. Because Brett Favre doesn't seem like the type of person to be looking around and saying, what do people think about me? What is my legacy? Because he just either didn't seem to notice or just really didn't have an opinion on it. Didn't seem to matter to him. Yeah, he was always an entertaining character and a great player. Just really the 2010 season in Minnesota, where they played, like, the 2010 Minnesota Vikings team is one of the most interesting teams, I think, in the history of football. Just that season, because before that season, Adrian Peterson was in so many endorsements and, like, commercials and stuff like that, and everybody was talking about him. And then Brett Favre had just had this great year, and they were basically an interception and a made field goal. Like, if that... there was basically 2 variables that if that pass had been batted down or if that pass had been complete, the game was over. And, they just had to make a field goal. So there were really only 2 variables there stopping the Vikings from going to the Super Bowl, and it turned out to be an interception. And then again, there was an overtime, and a lot of bad breaks for the Minnesota Vikings. Anyway, 2010, people were thinking they could potentially make it to the Super Bowl, or at least make the playoffs, have a great season for Brett Favre. And then it just all fell apart. Adrian Peterson had kind of a shitty year. Percy Harvin didn't really have a great year. Defense, you know, Jared Allen really started the decline of Jared Allen. All in one season. And then, along with that, probably the most interesting part of it was the Minnesota Superdome, or Minnesota Metrodome, the Hubert H. Humphrey, and the Metrodome. Its roof collapsed. And there's just something, I don't know, poetic about it. It wasn't, I mean, it was a force of nature. I mean, it wasn't a force of nature in the same way that the Superdome was. It was just a lot of snow, which is something that Minnesota gets all the time. Like, Minnesota's no stranger to a lot of snow. But the dome just wasn't prepared. And it broke open. I just remember watching that video and the snow all tumbling down to the ground. They played a home game in Detroit that next week. It was like it was a Monday night game. They had 2 Monday night games, one of which was the Vikings and somebody in the Ford Dome, or whatever Detroit Stadium is called. Actually, the Bills did the same thing this year. They had a big snow problem. They had to move the game to Detroit. Detroit's like the unofficial home team of like the unofficial stadium of every other team from the north and northeast. Lambeau Field's ever out of commission. I don't think Lambeau Field ever really will be out of commission in that sense. Shit. Okay. That'll happen. So basically, it wants me to go halfback smash in an attempt to run down the clock. I won't let it win like that. Halfback flare. See here, if I can get enough good protection, I can hit Toomer or Hilliard, possibly even Joe Juravicius. And if not, maybe Tiki Barb will get open on the flare. And he won't, but he's in what appears to be single coverage now. So, you know, it was worth it. At the end of the day. But yeah, and then I got surgery that year, 2010. So I do have a personal connection to the 2010 Minnesota Vikings and Brett Favre. Bring it all back to what is relevant to the game. Brett Favre, I don't know if it was his last game, but I think it was the last game that, like, he started. He was hurt, and they were playing, it was a home game, Sunday night, possibly Monday night. I think it actually was Monday night, at the TCF Bank Stadium, where the Gophers play. Which was this big deal heading up to the game because, like, the field wasn't heated underneath and, you know, nobody knew what to do, and the stadium wasn't big enough to hold a crowd of, you know, football fans, and it turns out it was, and it still is. They still use it as their stadium this year, and I wonder if they will next year, because I don't know how that stadium's coming along. The new, is it called New Viking Stadium, or just that's what the Wikipedia, okay. Actually, I take it back, I'm going to not say that. If I could unsay that, that would be great, thinking that, so you don't get the impression that I think that the new stadium will actually be called New Viking Stadium. Anyway, it was a snowy night. Brett Favre was injured. I was sick because I had just come off of a surgery with my throat, and I was unable to eat anything. And so what they tried to do was they tried to feed me this, like, gross. This is why am I telling you this story? That's a terrible story. Anyway, the whole point is I'm fading in and out of consciousness as Brett Favre has a terrible game on Monday night, but it's like his last game. It's actually kind of sad. This is an unimportant story. Ah, damn, I thought I had that intercepted. But no. I like the animations in Madden 2002, though, where it feels more animated, almost, than a Madden 2003 does. Or even the future games, maybe it's like a frame rate or something like that, but you can just see them going for the ball, and, like, there's not an animation there that he was trying to catch it, but you could see, like, the game could have let me catch it, theoretically. Seahorn. One of the 5 topics I wrote down was Jason Seahorn, but I have nothing to say about him. I don't know why I wrote it down. I was just, like, almost asleep in that class, so I mean, basically doing whatever I could to stay awake, and none of it was listening to the lecture, because that was just droning for an hour, not even the full hour and 15 minutes, on my mitosis and meiosis in cell division. And this is like basic, this is biology 100, which isn't a difficult class. But I was just like sitting there, and then eventually at some point I started looking at my phone for I started looking at the chronology of Nintendo 64 games on my phone just to figure out what games I don't own for the N64 and I need to buy. So we got 24 seconds left. Now I'm trying to run out the clock, and I hope it'll work. Theoretically it'll work. Why don't I just mess with their minds and throw a pass here? I'm not going to get the ball back at half, so I might as well just see if Hilliard can run. Is it Hillard or Hilliard? Nope, okay. Well, that's how that's going to end. Doesn't matter. I'll never say his name. He'll never make a catch because I will never get the ball off. For two reasons. One, because Kerry Collins isn't good, and then two, because my offensive line is arguably worse. This is going to be a two-part video.